Morning, everyone. It's 8:30. Could we have the roll call, please? Well, I should call it to order first. Thank you. Roll call, please, Liz.
Steve Karianen,
Here.
Kay Wilson, Randy Newman, Jim Evans. You have a quorum.
Okay, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance now. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 5, certification of compliance with open meetings law.
Let the record show that this meeting was noticed to the news media and public as required by Section 19.84 of Wisconsin statutes.
And the meeting agenda is set. I guess we'll go to public comments now. Item 7, I've got Dave Tenner.
Morning. I'll try to keep it brief. First, I want to thank the committee for taking time to gather information from all the many concerned citizens on the Lake District project and for working to understand the process, the state statute, and what it takes to form a Lake District. In our Lake Association Dam Committee team that's been working on this is, I don't know, what are we, 7, 8 people working on it for a couple of years, going through the statute and understanding things. So I really appreciate you guys digging in and understanding that. Some people seem to think there's a better way to address the dam issue instead of a lake district, but I haven't really heard a viable plan. So please note, I really don't want my taxes raised, but having a lake is a much higher priority for me. So the Lake District seems to be the way to go for me. Note, the formation of a district does not stop anyone from trying to find others to pay for the dam rebuild. I think some people think we haven't exhausted trying to get the county, trying to get the town, trying to get others to pay for it. In my opinion, I think the Lake District will actually help the communication between all these interested parties because the Lake District actually includes members from the county and from the town. And because of the way the road goes through there, it's going to take a big cooperation to get this project done. So in my opinion, I think the Lake District is still the way to go. And depending on how the costs get split up in the end, you know, we'll figure that out and the Lake District will help make that happen. So in the end, my hope is that after the Lake District is formed, we can all combine forces and work together to really find the best affordable solution to what we're dealing with on Callahan Lake. Thank you.
Okay, next, could we hear from Greg Eisel?
Hi, my name is Greg Eisel, 11007 West Chief River Road. I wanted to talk about why did the Lake Association wait so long to do something about the dam? They've known about this for many, many years. They now say it has to be dealt with now. They had plenty of time to come up with other options. Their petition was very deceitful. They never mentioned how much anyone would have to pay. The report on how they drew up the boundaries makes no sense to me. Why didn't they include businesses along Highway B? They benefit greatly from Callahan Mud Lake. Why did they include properties with no water access or view of the lakes? They claim the properties below the dam benefit. They claim that if the dam would go, the road got washed out, they would help them get to their properties. Sure sounds like they want to take control of a township road. They also claim that the lands below the dam could be reshaped if the dam fails. I have riverfront property below the Tiger Cat Dam, so I should not be included from the association's perspective. I am in the Tiger Cat watershed. The association all did not also did not include the properties north of mine, which are on the river. Why is that? I could someday belong to the Tiger Cat Lake District. Being on limited income and with disabilities like several others that are in the proposed district, I would have never dreamt that I would be forced to pay thousands of dollars in new taxes. You have heard plenty of information throughout the last several months. As you can clearly see, there are plenty of reasons for you to eliminate properties included in the boundaries. If not, deny this petition altogether. Thank you.
Rhonda Isold, please.
Good morning, y'all, and thank you for your attention. Rhonda Isold, 11007 West Chief River Road. I strongly oppose the formation of a lake district, and I urge you to recommend the dismissal of this petition for many reasons that have been discussed before. A recap of some of those decisions. No private organization should have the ability to raise my taxes by higher than 30% or more for any reason. The Lake Association did not properly inform residents of the financial consequences of joining a lake district. The Lake Association did not follow the guidelines in forming a lake district, although they claim that they followed all the guidelines. They included landlocked properties in the district. They included properties that have no access to the lake and no view of the lake. They didn't include some properties that actually had deeded access to the lake. They included properties below the dam which cannot access the lake. They did not follow the procedures involved in notarizing the petitions as described in Chapter 4. There are petitions that should have been dismissed for cause, but no one within the county has seemed to have put a number on that. My number was 13. I haven't heard any clarification on how many the county has decided were inadmissible. Finally, the majority of the properties, including the Lake District, do not have any petitions attached to them. Now, Wisconsin statutes give you the authority to dismiss the petition, and there are many reasons that you have to dismiss the petition. Wisconsin statutes also give the authority to remove properties from the proposed district. If you look at the statute, it simply states, in establishing the district, the county board may change the boundaries from those originally proposed. That's an absolute right that you guys have. You have the right to change the boundaries if you wish. You have an absolute right to change and remove properties from the boundaries. If you're not willing to dismiss the petition, this board should recommend the removal of the properties that have requested removal from the proposed lake district. This board can do that. You have the authority to remove those properties if you'd like. But again, you have more than ample reasons to dismiss the petition entirely. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas Murray.
Hello, Thomas Murray, 10671 Falcon Ridge. I'd like to talk about two terms we've heard a lot since these meetings have started. And one of them is benefit and how it benefits property. In the definition of benefit pertaining to a lake district, according to the state of Wisconsin, benefit is any profit acquired right, any profit or acquired right of privilege through a contract. Profit is what an area of business receives. Acquired right or privilege is deeded access. I don't receive either one of these. Now, we hear a lot about who's a riparian and who's not a riparian. The definition for a riparian property: if your property is located off the lake with no navigable access to the lake, it is not considered a riparian parcel. Riparian means your property must directly touch the body of water to have associated right to that water. Simply being near a water without direct access does not qualify you as a riparian owner. To be considered riparian, your property boundary must physically touch the lake. A few examples of this to help you visualize. You go down County B, you see where the Chief River is. There's properties on the north side of Chief River. They all have docks at the edge of their property. They get in their boat, they go under B and enter the flowage. That's a riparian parcel. The same thing with Hay Creek. That's down at the furthest boat landing by Dunroven Road. All that area can get in their get by their docks, get in their boats, go down Hay Creek and fish the flowage. They are riparians. I am not. I don't have that privilege. They talk about added value to my property. North County Assessment Services has confirmed that your lake and other assets such as Highway B do not affect the value of my property. It is strictly based on my property and the structures on it, nothing else. I have no view of the lake. Watershed. You have said that we are part of a larger watershed. We're below the dam. We're the first ones that flow down the Chief River into the Chippewa Lake flowage watershed. Callahan Mud Lake is the larger part of the watershed because they're above the dam. They actually flow into our watershed that ends up into the flowage. Okay, district, why they created the boundary. Formation of the boundary was created by the Lake District Committee without knowing who had deeded access or landlocked properties as they had talked about. On November 27th, Lynn Adams stated that after months of discussion with the committee and members and the UW extension, the boundary was
Excuse
drawn.
me, sir. Have to call time on this, but thank you very much.
Could I get a few more minutes as we discussed?
We should keep this rolling, but I appreciate your comments.
I got a lot more to say if anyone's interested after the meeting.
Ray Schnepp, please.
Ray Schnepp, 10896 W Callahan Lake Road. Today, I think it's more important to look at the reason why we're here. It's not because of the cost of the dam. It's because there's no owner of the dam. With no ownership, the DNR can take it out at any point. You know, this is not about what I want or what I feel I need is to keep the dam functioning and there. So without the ownership establishment, the DNR can take it out again. I'm hoping that with the establishment of the Lake District, we can work with the county and the city, which are going to be members of the board, to come up with solutions and designs of the dam. We're going to need all the help we can get. We'll need help with grant money from the state that could pay up to 50% of the dam cost. And I know this is not the time to bring it up, but I would be asking the county to help with the rest of it later on in the process. So, you know, I'll keep it short. At the end of the day, either the county takes over the dam ownership, which will not happen, or the Lake District is formed so that we can keep the dam. Thank you.
Lynn Amundson, please.
Lynn Amundson, 10745W Callahan Lake Road. We submitted some additional information to all of you on the committee last week on January 3rd because of your ending question at the last committee meeting about the transparency. Within that email letter to all of you explaining all the informational material, PowerPoint presentations, extra Zoom meetings, anything that, the open house at the dam that we had with Jacob Jeffton from the DNR present, all of that information just shows how transparent we have been. In addition to that email, I just want to mention too, that wasn't in there, 125 to 130 emails were sent out numerous times with updates on our process of forming the Lake District. For those who we don't have emails for, we stuffed envelopes to mail to them with additional information. Some people picked up the information at the meetings. I want to really stress from the beginning, because it was a question by a few of you last time, that we've encouraged open dialogue with all property owners and asked for any volunteers who wanted to join the committee, along with contact information for everyone to contact us with questions, comments, sit-down conversations to allow for better understanding of the process. We held, as I mentioned, Zoom meetings during the winter when our Lake Association doesn't meet. The 2 copies of, in part of that email we sent to you show distinctly that we reached out to get average costs of dams that have already been built over the past few years. And the second page that we gave you a copy of clearly shows the projected cost of a dam, what it would cost based on your property value, based on a 1 mil rate or something like that. That was done in the open presentation and at the Lake Association meeting, and there are non-Lake Association members who were present at that. It showed the last one didn't even include, of that second page, the fact that we could go for 50% of a grant from one organization and a different agency we have yet to research. So I have to confirm everyone has been kept updated, informational sheets and everything else I've just mentioned. And even those who stand opposed in front of you for all these meetings, they were present at the meetings or at the open dam. The other thing that we talked about last time I want to mention quickly is about the whole issue of treating our lake for Eurasian milfoil. You all are aware in your line of work that Eurasian milfoil is spreading in all the lakes. We've been contacted by the Tiger Cat flowage. We've been contacted by Round Lake. We've had long conversations with LCO Conservation. We've had letters of support from the Chippewa Flowage Resort Association, LCO, Sawyer County Conservation, and the town of Round Lake to support our AIS 2025 surface water grant. No one likes chemicals in the lake, but it's necessary to continue to have some form of treatment to keep the amount of milfoil in the lake within the parameters that are acceptable.
Thank you very much. We're out of time here, but have to keep this rolling. Next, I have one from Kent Lanen.
Good morning. Excuse me, I'm going to keep this short. I'm having some health issues, but we have a letter on record, as well as we're asking for the letter that was sent from Brenda Sorrow, legal representation for those of us that are wish to be removed from the Lake District. We asked that be included. I was going to speak to it more, but that's not going to happen this morning. Basically, we don't oppose the forming of a Lake District, but being landlocked and having no ties to Calhoun Lake in any way, do we think we should be included? The fact that they're using the term keyhole, well, that was their decision in drawing up the district without including us or comment on us. If you look at, our home has been, since the original owner has been for sale 3 times, but by 6 different realtors. Not one time in that listing did they ever list Calhoun Lake as being an attribute to the home. Not one single time. Again, I'm going to have to close this. I appreciate your consideration, but there's no reason in the world that we should be included in this. And when we were first proposed to it, we were trying to be a good neighbor and said, yeah, we'll support you in doing that. Never were we told that we would be financially responsible for the forming of the quality of their lake. And as far as the dam goes, we live on wetlands. We chose to live on wetlands. We don't want to, I don't want to live on a lake for a lot of these reasons. And we shouldn't be responsible for the financial quality of that lake. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Is there anyone online wishing to speak? Doesn't appear to be the case. Okay, so I guess we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is to have an election here for chair and vice chair. And I guess I'll turn it over to Andy for that.
Yes, with the resignation of Mr. Soralski, he was the chair of the committee. There's a vacancy in the chair position. So I'll conduct the election for the position of the chair. At this time, I'll open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Once we do done with nominations, a person receiving majority of vote of the members of the committee entitled to a seat shall be declared elected. So at this time, I'll open the floor for nominations for the position of chair. Do I hear any nominations?
I would like to nominate Steve Carrion.
So we have a nomination for Steve Karyainen. Are there any other nominations for the position of chair? Do I have any further nominations for the position of chair? That's the third and final call. With no other nominations, I suggest somebody make a motion of to elect Mr. Karyainen as chair.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Steve Carrion as chair of Land, Water, and Forest Resources.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right. Motion and a second for Steve Karyainen to chair the committee, or all in favor say aye. Any opposed? And then Mr. Karyainen was the vice chair, so I will open up the floor for nominations for positions of vice chair.
I'll make a motion to nominate Randy Newman for vice chair.
There's a nomination for Randy Newman. Do I have any further nominations for the position of chair? This is the third and final call for nominations for the position of vice chair. To no other nominations, I recommend a motion to elect Randy Newman as vice chair of the
I'll
committee.
make a motion to elect Randy Newman for vice chair of the Land, Water, and Forest Resources Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, consider approval of minutes of previous meeting, the December 20th meeting, that is.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Your second? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, Register of Deeds update, Rachel Thompson, please.
Hello, everyone. Rachel Thompson. I was just sworn in 2 days ago, so I'm excited for my new 4-year term. Paula Chiser has now retired, and so her and I worked on this monthly report, and just looking forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Number 11, any events we should know about?
No applications for this month.
All right, Land Records and County Surveyor Department report. We have a report.
For the land records report, we submitted our 2024 year review report. You can see we got some bullet points here. If you want me to cover anything or explain it, please let me know. Otherwise, it's there
Anything
for
in
you.
particular that you'd like to highlight?
Nothing specific to highlight. We throughout the year we dealt with a number of situations with whether it was getting data to the dispatch office or this was the first year that personal property has been since discontinued, so that was something we had to work through this year.
And the surveyor report? Anything of note there?
No, again, if you've got any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up with one question for Brian? In the annual report, I just thought this was interesting for discussion for everybody's knowledge. You have the equalized ratios percentage for each municipality in the county. Is that, I believe, shows those who are probably have had reassessments done recently and those who haven't?
I think Kimberly can comment on that better than me, and she is.
Yeah, and I ask that because occasionally we get people, when their taxes jump, a lot of times it's because they've been reassessed and that township is a larger percentage of our overall equalized value. Could you just explain that, and then how often towns or municipalities need to be reassessed?
Sure, yeah. So in the past 2 years, yeah, you can see those, probably the top 5 there. So that's Bass Lake, Meteor, Meadowbrook, Radisson, and Round Lake. They were all reassessed. So they're being assessed at about 100% of full market value. This year, I looked at some of the tax bills, and for the properties in these townships that were reassessed, their assessed value had to increase by more than 70% in order to get an increase in taxes. So I know a lot of people get upset when they see, oh, my assessed value is going up so high, and my taxes are going to go up so high. And that's not necessarily the case. So that's a good thing to note. And the reassessments tend to occur, I'd say, like every 5 to 7 years for each township. So I'm sure we'll have more this year as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Okay, next, item 13, Sawyer County Forestry Department. December forestry report.
Okay. To finish out the year for the month of December, we did have 19 sales listed as active. We've got a lot going on in the woods right now as contractors are moving into winter sales and prepping with this cold weather. Sale value sold and uncut on file is just over 4.4 million right now. Revenue in December, we were just over 126,000. So our year to date was just over 2.5 million. So we exceeded our budget for the year, despite questionable markets all year. We managed to hit our goal and then some. So kudos to forestry staff and DNR assistants for another productive year for us. Sale inspections were on target for the level of activity. We did have a couple of tracks turned in for review and approval. Recon, where we exceeded our goal for the year there with 500 plus acres in December. We did finish up our for year 25 Good Neighbor Authority contract that we run through the state for the Forest Service. And we are working up a new project for this year that we've got to get the contract put together. We're working on that right now. Other than that, as I mentioned last month, we did officially complete the Trail 5 rehab project. That one was touch and go for the entire contract period. So we're pretty happy to get that one off the books and completed. Other than that, I don't have anything to add to the report. If the committee has any questions.
Anything on gypsy moth in the county here to be concerned about or speak to?
I haven't really seen any new information with that. I know we haven't occasionally, but it seems like with not last winter, but generally our colder winters, it seems like it kind of keeps it at bay. So yeah, I can't think of a infestation area, in the last couple of years here. I know they're still doing the flights for the disrupting the mating things, the pheromones and whatnot in certain areas, but I don't have anything update on gypsy moth. I don't know, you got anything? No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the 2025 annual work plan.
Okay, we have 2 documents here. We've got the work plan, which outlines our schedule of work for the year. This is just our basic plan. This is a requirement for me to apply for the Forest Administrators Grant, which the state pays half of my salary and benefits. The partnership meeting minutes is part of this as well. So If you have any questions about any specific items in the work plan, I guess I'm not going to run through it, but it's our base workload for the year, barring any catastrophes or storm events, what have it.
Is there anything new in your plan?
Not particularly. Our sale levels are pretty steady year to year. The real new updates, we just spell out our, on page 6 for the ATV, UTV trail snowmobile, where this changes each year for our special projects that we have on the books. So we did finish up all of our contracted projects this year. So we've got another, let's see, I think we got five on the books to be bid out this year. So other than that, there's really no new items on there.
Has the emerald ash borer caused any changes in your work plan at all?
No, we've been, we've got the site out by Moose Lake that I don't have a lot of data on that right now either. And we did have the one beetle that was found in Radisson several years ago in a trap, but we do change a little bit of management with ash in the forest, with higher risk trees. We're leaning more towards taking those out of the stands when we get an opportunity, but otherwise it's just been standard operating. Once the entire state was quarantined, it switched a lot of our issues with dealing with ash borer for wood transport.
Okay, very good. And I guess we're on to the Sealy Forest Trail proposal.
I do need an approval on this, and this has to be approved by county board also.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
excuse me. So we need to discuss and approve the work plan. Any further discussion around it, or just move to make a motion to approve it?
I'll make the motion to approve the Sawyer County Forest Plan for 2025. Move to the county board.
I will second that.
I'll second
Okay, all in favor of approving the plan?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
The minutes have to go as well too. The partnership meeting minutes are part of that, so.
oh, okay.
Yep.
We have to do that one in addition.
Can I get clarification then? Mr. Carrion, and you did make a second before Mr. Evans. What would you like the record to show? Your second.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, and as far as the partnership meeting minutes,
I'll make a motion to approve the partnership minute meetings and move it on to the county board.
do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Now we move on to the Sealy Forest Trail proposal.
Okay, my name is Montgomery Mao. I'm the president of the Sealy Trails Foundation. And we were here in the past and went through in pretty great detail our proposal for the Sealy Forest Trail. So I don't want to go into a ton of detail. I just want to do a quick little recap on the project, what the objectives are, who the target audience is, how the county benefits. So we'll try to keep it pretty brief. And so we can move on to the next slide. So the objective of the trail, if you recall, it's to create a unique, easier, year-round, multi-use trail for the community and visitors. So how does it differ from what we have today? So many of our existing trails today have a very specific, singular purpose in mind. So we have lots of ski trails, and in wintertime, ski trails are generally for skiing only. It's highly frowned upon. In fact, it's policed pretty heavily by skiers themselves that you do not walk on the trails, you don't bring pets on the trails. It's for skiing only. And in summertime, they're typically not used simply because they're grassy surfaces and people, prefer to use more dirt surfaces in the summertime. We also have a pretty extensive single track mountain bike trail system that many of you are probably familiar with. And these trails, again, have a very singular purpose in mind. They require specialized equipment. They require higher skill levels than many people actually have. And then we've got our power sports trails, which technically are multi-use and they get used by non-power sports people. However, over time, the machines have gotten bigger, the machines have gotten faster. It's become a little less compatible mixing the non-motorized with the motorized use. And so what we are trying to provide is just a more desirable option for non-motorized use and making it usable year-round. One of the important things is we are planning to use mainly existing logging roads and logging corridors. So our impact on the forest will be, as minimal as possible. There are a few very short sections where we actually have to create new trail. But in general, these are all existing corridors already. One of the important things is we want to celebrate Sawyer County's heritage. We've got 3 points of interest built into the plan that highlight Sawyer County's history and logging history and other things as part of the trail project. We want to drive economic activity through tourism, and we want to enhance the quality of life of our residents by giving them more opportunities to connect with nature. We've got, local support from businesses like New Moon. Even Walmart was generous and saw the benefit to the community and gave us a nice donation. CAMBA, our local mountain bike association, supports it. And in fact, we just received an email forwarded to us from the executive director of CAMBA. This came into CAMBA at the end of December. And the email says, "Hi, I'm trying to find some local adaptive mountain bike trails for a friend that is planning to visit. Are the CAMBA trails adaptive accessible? Or do you know of any in northern or midwestern Wisconsin?" The CAMBA trails are not adaptive, and they're not accessible to adaptive. They're designed, single track trails designed narrow for a two-wheeled bike. So our trail will actually be a good option for the adaptive athlete. So next we're going to talk about who the target audience is. So if we can move forward. So this is data from the Outdoor Industry Association. They do an annual survey just looking at who are outdoor participants, outdoor recreation participants. And again, in 2023, a new record was set. There's substantial growth, but that growth is driven by the casual participant, not the hardcore. So who is the casual participant? Well, 55% are women. 2/3 are either under the age of 24 or 55 and older. And what motivates them? Well, what doesn't motivate them is high-tech gear. They're not interested in high-tech gear. They're not looking to perfect their skills. They're not looking to win races, set speed records. What they're looking for is getting outdoors, to spend time with friends, build community, boost mental health, and connect with nature. So that is the market we're going after. And in our area, it's a hugely underserved group of people. So a little bit about the points of interest on the next slide. We have 3 on-trail points of interest. Could you move forward on the slide? Oh, he's got it. Okay, thank you. In the upper right, we've got the Dynamite Shack, which is off of Bodecker Road. And we have Camp Smith Lake, which was a former CCC camp. And we don't have any photos of it, but we also are including the future Sealy Observation Tower. That is on the county's rec plan. So we're going to look at the map. Now, on the last time we were here, I don't think it was made clear. While this is a 3-phase project that we've planned, we are here only looking for approval on phase 1. And so the map that I handed you shows only phase 1. And what you'll see, the dashed red line, is actually a trail that it's 5 miles of trail that we've been using for winter use since 2020. So we've been maintaining it and grooming it for winter use. And it was more or less our test market to see what people thought. And the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. And people asked us, hey, can we make it usable year round? And so that was kind of the motivation for expanding the project. Initially, that trail was designed to connect the Sealy Hills Rec area to Camba's winter groom trails. And now we want to add 7 miles of new trail in a looped system and base it out of the 00 trailhead, which, as many of you know, is the epicenter of all silent sports, human-powered activity in Sawyer County. I mean, that's where everybody goes. And again, just to reiterate, it's going to use primarily existing logging roads to minimize impact on the forest. So I'm going to finish by talking about the benefits to Sawyer County. So if we can move forward. Thank you. Drive economics. I mean, that's a big part of it. And per the Sawyer County Comprehensive Plan, that is one of the big focuses, is to increase recreational activities to help spur tourism and also to keep our population healthy. It supports the current, or the most current, outdoor recreation plan and meets 7 of those 9 objectives that are in this plan, which I'm guessing is probably going to be updated fairly soon. And finally, no cost to Sawyer County, as it will be funded by the Sealy Trails Foundation. So we are asking for you today just to approve phase 1 of the Sealy Forest Trail project. And with that, if there are any questions.
Any questions from the
So
committee?
you guys did meetings with all these other organizations, Greg?
Correct. We've met with ATV organizations, the other silent sports people, other organizations.
So where were all their positions at on it?
While the ATV group initially had some concerns about trail crossings, but after going through more detail on the map, we're adding 2 new trail crossings, which they have the right of way. So it's, and there are 2 other crossings that are being shared, one with the Berkey Trail, and one is actually at Telmark Road, where they come into Telmark Road. So it's the 2 additional crossings. So the ATV group, as far as I know, doesn't have any opposition. And we have great support from CAMBA. They see an absolute need for a trail like this.
And I think the last time you were here, it sounded like Sawyer County Forestry didn't have any concerns as far as this impacting what you do on the forest. Is that true, Greg?
I guess I wouldn't say I don't have concerns. I guess, I don't know, I've really been wrestling with this one, about how to implement this. And I'm just gonna say, I'm kind of on the fence with it. You know, I really like the idea. I like the concept of this trail, and I think we could use that. But a lot of the feedback that I've been getting, and I don't want to speak for user groups because, you know, nobody wants to officially come out and oppose things. But there are concerns over trail density issues, you know, and that's been kind of our main issue, is like, how do we fit all this in? I have some concerns with topography with a gravel trail. You know, it's like we've got some flat areas, but coming out of 00, you don't have many options without dropping down or coming up big hills with a gravel trail. So, and we've talked about that in the field too. You know, I've looked at a lot of this. It's, like I said, I'm on the fence. I like the idea, but I'm really struggling with how we can fit this in with the other uses. You know, we've talked about no restrictions for the timber sales and things like that, but it's always an issue when we have extra trails in the area. And probably the low end of the concerns is we are getting staff-wise, you know, I hate to even go here, but it's like I'm having a hard time keeping up with rec trails, you know, and it's like another trail is going to be a hardship. You know, that being said, if the committee is for this and this goes to county board and approves, I mean, we'll implement this, we'll make it happen. But there are some concerns.
So are you thinking that size, I mean, can this project be cut down? I mean, 7 miles is quite a bit here. I mean, there's a lot of inner loops.
Yeah.
I mean, do we shorten it up? And
I think that's probably a good start, you know, I mean, because that's kind of, you know, and I don't want to blindside you here with this or anything, but that's kind of where if we could scale this back and do kind of like we did a test thing with the fat bikes, if we could maybe back this off to a smaller loop and just to see the ins and outs. Because, you know, one of the other concerns that came up was the maintenance issue, you know, and with gravel, I mean, you look at, you know, ATV, UTV trails, when, you know, we've got hundreds and thousands of dollars every year, and we have a hard time keeping that service, that surface, you know, in check. So that's kind of where I sit right now. So it's, like I said, I'm on the fence.
I'd like to share with you a letter that was sent to me from Ben Pop at the Berkey. He said that he couldn't be here today because of a medical procedure, but we certainly think it would use some additional discussion before any approval. With the Sealy Hills, the Camba, Berkey Trails and Loops seems like a good amount of trails already exist in the current demand. Additionally, it appears they want to use the Double Trailhead as one of the starting areas. Would want to discuss cost sharing, et cetera, since we currently take that all on. I just wanted to share my concerns, having just learned about this. And I got another letter from Jim Sokup, who is the former Trails and Facilities Director at the Berkey. And he said that there are more questions that he had about potential county liability for these trails. Who inspects the proposed and completed trails? Should multiple organizations be allowed to build in the same county, region, location, et cetera? And will users understand the system when and how do the rules of building trails apply? How is access to building locations granted, being the 00 building? Ultimately, as pressures for use of the county forest resources increase, there needs to be greater oversight.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you're prepared to respond to some of these concerns right now.
Sure, I could
or
if you'd like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, as far as maintenance goes, for one, that's something that has been, considered from the beginning. And with the design of the trail system, one of the fortunate things is we'll be able to get machines in there. There's an implement that they make for tractors and for skid steers. It's called a Harley rake. And since these are dirt trails, that particular implement is exceptionally good at renovating and repairing trails. And so that is something that, our plan is to just on a routine basis go through the trail system on, like over a 3-year period and refresh the trails all the way around. And again, I mean, unlike ATV trails, these are non-motorized, so you're not going to have the wear and tear that you have on ATV trails from the motorized use. Since these are going to be, mountain biking, hiking, things like that. So the maintenance will be a much easier proposition than you have with ATV trails. And again, it's just, a scheduled maintenance and then any repair work that needs to be done on an as needed basis would be handled. And again, we can handle it by getting equipment in there. So unlike mountain bike trails, single track mountain bike trails, where it's difficult to get machines in and out, this won't be an issue on this particular trail. As far as the Berkey Trail or the Berkey building use, are they asking for cost sharing from CAMBA? Because CAMBA has a trailhead there, so I'm not clear on what that particular issue is. There would be a separate trail entrance from the Berkey Trail and from the CAMBA trails, properly signed and, just making sure people know, the signage is going to is critical, and we've already, we've got a very good plan for appropriate signage. So people know, where to go, what trail they're on. Since the Berkey Trail is not pet friendly, that'll be, heavily signed and make sure that people are staying on the trails that are pet friendly. Any other concern that I did not address? Jimmy's comment about liability to the county, I'm not sure why there would be any difference from any other trail system. We'll have insurance, Sawyer County will be listed as an additional insured. So I can't imagine that there's any issue from any different from any other trail system that we have currently.
You have something, Randy?
Yeah, I was going to ask Andy, do we cover blanket insurance on these trails for accidents?
Generally the county is covered by recreational immunity. That as long as, if we're aware of any negligence or issues, then we don't address them, then we would be negligent. But, any public using county property, we're immune from recreation.
So it's on the user himself?
Yes, generally. Yep. But I do have, if I can follow up with a question with Greg. So, I've not dug into this too much, but I know we've had working relationships with the Birkebeiner, CAMBA, Sealy Hills Trails. At least a couple of those we have MOUs with.
Yeah, we have an MOU with CAMBA and we have an MOU with Berkey for the maintenance, and Berkey, it extends to the 00 facility and everything. But yeah, we've got the MOUs in place that spells out responsibilities and liabilities and
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We have those agreements, and generally you're gonna have something in those that covers insurance, not so much for the people using the trails, but who's responsible for people working on the trails and, if there is an organized group working on county land, we're gonna wanna have an MOU, I would think. And I guess that'd be my suggestion, and I mean, I would guess with Greg is that you have hundreds of thousands of acres of public land. This idea is good, it's needed, there's a gap there. There's a lot of density of trails in those areas where we already have agreements with those user groups. We probably should sit down and work through any concerns first and then put this into a MOU of some sort with the group. Does that make sense to you, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my recommendation. We still table this until you guys can sit down with all these guys and have some good agreement wrote up, because I'm hearing now with the facility on 00 and the size of everything in these trail systems all combined, you know, because you got different groups and agencies. Seems like we got a bike race every month up there. And I mean, how does this all work together so everybody can make it a happy fit?
Guess another question is, would it be possible to maybe scale this down instead of 12 miles in phase one, go to 4 or 6 or something?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we could certainly look at that. Mhm.
It might flow through this process a little better,
Okay.
perhaps. Just a thought.
Mhm.
So I guess you made a motion to table this?
Until the county and forestry and these organizations sit down and come to some consensus, whether it be shortening the trail up or how they're going to use these facilities and
drawing up an MOU.
drawing the MOU up also.
Second that.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. All righty, thank you very much. U.S. Forest Service report. I found out yesterday that they would not be able to appear today, so I'm sorry for that. So we'll move on to zoning and conservation.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
could we sneak in the DNR report real quick? We don't have it on the agenda, but Pat's
Oh.
here.
Oh, by all means, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I'll make it quick. I'm Pat Zimmer, Hayward Forestry Team Leader, filling in for Brody Fisher, who's at a training this week. Just a couple of things real quick. Currently, our DNR staff who are assisting on Sawyer County Forest are out in the field, getting some good work done, doing forest recon, setting up timber sales. We're currently just over 50% of our fiscal year 25 hourly goal for Sawyer County, which is 2,217 hours. So we're on track there to hit our target for the year. One major change is that Brody Fisher, as of December 29th, has accepted another local position as a DNR ranger in Hayward. So currently the Sawyer County liaison position is vacant. He'll continue serving in that role until we can get the position filled, which we're hoping to do here as quickly as possible, whether it's through an internal lateral process, or if that goes unfilled, then we'll have it open for external recruitment later this year, hopefully. So just something, kind of a bigger change there, but end of report, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, now we move on to zoning conservation.
Yeah, we have kind of the update from December until now, and then the second page there is part of the report, kind of has some of the updates as far as what occurred over the 2024 season. I'll just go through some of this and keep it a little bit short and sweet. Conservation staff has been updating the NR 135 files, that is for the non-metallic mining process. Staff attended the Northwest Area Conservation Technical meetings. Additional field work was conducted on cost share project and finalizing the project design work for those. Nutrient management, farmer education grant renewals and reimbursement processes is occurring. AIS and Protection Network grant has been funded. We're waiting to hear back on the status of 2 other planning grants, and those are looking to be approved. Those were grants that were sent out back in fall, so we did hear back that we will be receiving at least the larger one, and waiting on the 2 other planning grants, which is specifically for 2 separate lake planning grants that have kind of I'll call it an explosion of AIS occurring right now. Tree sale is still open and is online, so if you are interested in purchasing any trees, I do believe there are a few species that are still available, and the poster and speaking contest will be later this month or mid-month. And we will be having those posters out in the main lobby or the main hallway there. So make sure that you go ahead and vote on that January 16th and 17th dates. It's kind of a part of the year-end summary. We did have 5 lakes surveyed in Sawyer County for invasive species. These are more than just our, check procedures. These are full surveys of those lakes. We did train 57 additional residents for invasive species monitoring. There was a total of 378 hours spent on AIS-related activities. We did 8 shoreland surveys. 3 farmers were trained in nutrient management. We completed 2 cost share projects, an additional 6 projects for design work. Those design work projects are then being sent out to bids and most likely will be occurring over the ice conditions. Most of these design work processes deal with shoreline erosion, and one of the better times to work on stabilization of a bank on a shoreline is during ice access so you can get to that spot. So we are working on several of those with good ice conditions this year. We should be able to get some equipment out on the ice to do those. Again, additional staff, we did 58 additional on-site inspections with conservation staff, and those don't include the mitigation checks, the grading permit checks, and the other items listed above. So conservation staff is busy. So any other questions as far as conservation updates?
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much, Jay. All right, item 15, Callahan Mud Lake District petition. Andy?
Yeah, so where we're at with that is that I think we've talked about it for a few meetings and have tried to gather the information, answer any questions for the committee, continue to take in the public correspondence. So in your packet, you had the list of the Lake District removal requests. And then a few maps showing the layout, the layout of the removal requests, the recommended removals, map of petition signers. I think those are all current. There is, just so you're aware, we do have I'll pull it up on the screen here. So that's part of essentially an interactive map that has been built. That we'll be putting the link out. As far as I'm aware, this map shows the boundaries of the district, the parcels within the district. The red blocks or red outlined are the properties that have requested removal. The blue are the parcels that had petition signatures accompanying them. Since last meeting, there were 2 parcels that did have petition signers that were not on the map. Those have been added. But I believe we have all of the requests for removal correct and updated. There were not any additional since the last meeting. So that's the references. And then you also have the updated report to the board. This is the report from the public hearing that was held on November 6th. So that has to be provided to the board within 90 days of the hearing, so effectively till February 6th. Recommendations that we try to move this along to the county board from this meeting to this month's county board meeting. Beyond that, Rebecca Roker, our counsel, is online, and she can take it from there, addressing the report, any questions on that, and then what the other next steps are beyond that.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Going to hear from Rebecca right now then, or?
Yeah, there we go.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. As Andy indicated, the report that you have in front of you is the report that's required by the statutes to be generated after the public hearing. And so that is that's what it is. I know that the county staff team has worked on the report a lot and has verified the information contained in the report pursuant to the statutory obligations. And if any of you have questions on the report, I'm happy to answer those. But again, what the important takeaway is that the report memorializes the comments that were made at the public hearing in November and goes through the statutory elements that are required to be met for the creation of the Lake District, and then has some details regarding how the petition meets those statutory requirements. I know that you've heard lots of public comments. You heard several today. I believe you've received lots of correspondence with public comments and so forth. And all of those public comments from the public hearing are included in this report. And I believe that Mr. Alvarado and our staff have made sure to forward you any other correspondence that's been received with respect to the Lake District. So all of that information becomes the record upon which this committee makes a recommendation to the board. And that takes us to our next step. So the process, according to your ordinances and the state statutes, is that this committee makes a recommendation as to whether to adopt the report, and then that is forwarded to the county board. Now, in conjunction with making that recommendation, I recommend that this committee go through specific findings of fact and conclusions of law. And the reason for that is so we can make, or the committee can make, a very detailed explanation of what its findings are. So that process can sometimes seem duplicative because it really mirrors what is in the report. But again, we want to make sure that we prepare and have a robust record of the proceedings at the committee level. But then also, so when this goes to the county board, they have the record in front of each county board supervisor. So again, it may seem like a kind of a repetitive process as we move through, your deliberations and then the decision-making process. But again, it's the way we're doing it is compliant with what the state statutes require. And it is a very thorough method. And given this is such a significant issue, I recommend that you go through this legal exercise. On that point, why is this such a significant issue? There are over 200 lake districts in the state of Wisconsin. So they're not uncommon. I know this is the first one in Sawyer County, but throughout the state, we see lots of lake districts. In fact, I personally, as my role as outside counsel and other attorneys in our office have seen kind of a boom in lake districts lately. And so we're going to be doing a training session through WCA in January. We can certainly forward that information for anybody who's interested. But again, it is what we've seen across the state, and what we're seeing now in Sawyer County is this an uptick in the requests. And it is such an important issue because the county you are creating another municipal entity that does have taxing authority. And so it's a big deal. Now, with that authority comes a lot of responsibility, and the statute set forth the responsibilities of that lake district should the county deem it appropriate and create that lake district. And so you may have questions on what happens after it's created. Where is the accountability? Where may people who are part of the Lake District go to voice complaints or voice concerns about the taxation or about the functions? And the statutes say that the Lake District has to have its own board. And so there is essentially a governing body of a lake district once it's created. And that is the place that becomes the forum for public comment, public input, and decision-making power for the lake district. So why that's important to this committee is if the lake district is indeed created, the buck passes to that board of the lake district for the governance of that lake district. So the continuing obligations on the county's part, there's really no continuing obligations, if you will. It passes to that lake district. So I wanted to touch on that just to make sure that we all had a good understanding of what might happen afterwards and what the county's governing role may be if it does indeed create the lake district. If there are any other questions about specific public comments or components of those public comments that you have, I'm happy to answer those. Or Andy, is there anything else that I missed and didn't touch on that you'd like me to touch on?
Just a clarification in case there's any misunderstanding, the report that's in the agenda, committee report to the Stark County Board of Supervisors, that has to be approved by this committee and then sent to the board. But sending it to them is just a report. It's not a recommendation for approval of the district or approval of boundaries or what properties are included, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. So under 3326, the report has to be forwarded by this committee to the board. That is what the statutory requirement is. Now, in conjunction with what the county's policies are with respect to actions of the committee and how things or how this would get to the board, that's where my recommendation is that this committee indeed make a recommendation on the report and make a recommendation whether to create the Lake District as it forwards that report to the county board.
As far as the to make a recommendation to the board on the creation of the Lake District, that would involve the findings of fact?
That's correct, right.
And just procedurally to give the committee instructions, how do they act on the report first and then we go into the findings of fact, or do you recommend to do that all together?
We can do it all together because really the findings of fact are a document that essentially memorializes what is in the report. And so they're very similar. And so if we want to do that at the same time, we can certainly do that. The way that the agenda reads, purposely, the findings of fact and conclusions of law are not included in the packet because essentially those are generated as a result of the committee's findings. I have them drafted in order to guide the committee through what those findings need to be. So if I'm just, Andy, were you anticipating that the committee take action on the report and do its recommendation to the county board today? Because we can do that. I'm just, again, looking at the agenda. Is that what the desire of the committee is?
I wasn't anticipating what the committee might want to do. I wanted to make sure they understood
Okay.
what their next steps are or their options are. So I think it's up to the committee how you want to proceed.
I guess for myself, it sounds like keyholing is basically frowned upon, if not forbidden, in the creation of the Lake District. But after the Lake District is established, folks with valid reasons for not being included have an option to have their concerns heard and potentially be taken out of the Lake District? Is that a fact, or how do you see that?
Yeah, you are correct that keyholing is frowned upon. And the reason for that is because you want consistency and fluidity between the benefits of the members of the Lake District. That's the whole purpose of creating a Lake District under the statutes. And so if you have holes of owners not included, the theory is you're undermining the purpose of the statute. Now, with that being said, the county may remove property owners from the boundaries if it so chooses at the time of the creation of the Lake District. Or you're also correct that after the creation of the Lake District, a property owner that does not want to be included may petition the new Lake District Board for removal. So there is that process available under the statutes.
So if I heard you right, you said keyholing is frowned upon, but is it forbidden? Is my question.
It's not specifically forbidden by the statutes, but when we look at what the committee has to find in order to create the Lake District, one of the components is that the property to be included in the district will be benefited by the establishment. And the theory is that if you have these keyholes, you're undermining the benefits to those property owners. So why would one property owner be benefited, but then the adjacent property owner wouldn't, and then the following property owner would? So again, to answer your question, it's not specifically prohibited by the statutes. However, if we do create keyholes, I would want the committee to make specific findings as to why it's doing that, why it's removing those specific properties from the boundaries. And I can help guide you through that once we.
Yeah, we may need some help with that.
Yep. Nope. And that's and the report is really kind of a step-by-step of what we're going to go through and make those findings. And if there's things in the report that the committee doesn't agree with, then that can be your finding. Just because you have a report in front of you doesn't mean that you have to create or recommend creation of the Lake District. This report is meant to be a memorialization of what happened at the public hearing and the comments, but all of you get to decide within your own use of discretion whether to recommend creation of the Lake District.
So if we recommend creation of the Lake District, we, the board, can address the concerns of those who don't want to be included, and if we deem them valid concerns, we can exclude those properties or owners.
That's correct. Yep, and we would have that, I have that dialogue regarding the concerns of exclusion when we talk about those specific properties.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
No problem.
Anything else?
So we need to make a recommendation first, and then we go through the recommendations of the finding of facts of law. Is that the way I understand? Andy?
I'm going to have Rebecca answer that. Is the first thing to do to make a recommendation on the report?
Yeah, we can definitely do the recommendation on the report first. And then we can go through the findings of fact after the recommendation on the report is completed.
Are we not going to discuss removals first?
You can definitely discuss the removals first, because as part of the report, or the report includes what the proposed boundaries are. And so if you are going to be recommending exclusions from the boundaries, you would want to make sure that that's contained within the decision.
Right.
I guess my opinion is I don't want to make any recommendations for removals. I think either the county board as a whole needs to make a decision on that, or we'll rely on the Lake District of making their own decisions on that.
I'd like to consider the piece of property that the staff recommended removal.
Have that up on the screen. It's in the report. This is the parcel that's hashed in yellow. And the primary reason was that the boundary description and the parcel the legal description of the property were not consistent. So there was 50 feet, one end of the parcel not included. It is also isolated on the opposite side of the road. This is the parcel. See here in the report, it's addressed in item under C7.
That parcel is already addressed in the report, so it's removed effectively, correct?
No, you'd have to make that, the committee has to make that decision.
I make a recommendation that we remove the Randall B. Armsbury Jr. property on 11051 West South Shore Road from the Lake District.
Your second? Second. Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, so moved. And let's see, what do we do next here?
Okay, so now that you've made that decision, so essentially I would classify that as you've made a decision on part of the report. And so I would recommend that next you make a decision as to the recommendation of the report. If you're ready to do that. If you have questions about the report, let's talk about those questions. Or if you feel that you need more time to digest what's in the report, or to go through the information, you may defer your forwarding of the report until next month, because under the statutes, you have to forward the report within 3 months after the date of the hearing. So you have, and Andy verified my dates with me. I believe they have until the February meeting, correct?
I don't believe so. The February meeting is going to be on the 13th.
Okay.
And I believe the 90 days will be about February 6th.
Okay. All right. My apologies then. You have to make a decision on the report, or you have to forward the report before February 6th. So we can, yeah, that's what the statutes require.
I'd like to make I'd like to make a motion to approve the report as presented dated 12/19/24.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so moved.
Okay, now what I would recommend that we do is we're going to go through the findings of fact and conclusions of law. And if I'm not sure who's there controlling the screens, but if I could share my screen, we'll go through these point by point. And again, this is going to mirror what you saw in the report. And again, this is the memorialization of what is in the report. So if there's things that you disagree with in these findings, let's talk about those. Let me see here. Tell me when you can see my screen.
Can see it.
Okay, great. All right. So we're going to go.
Could you just, I think it has to be enlarged on your end.
I'm on full screen already. Are you just seeing a small box of it?
Yeah, it's a very small portion of the screen that you're sharing. I don't know if you can go up to view and make it larger under the view tab.
I think it's that navigation tab on the far left. You have to X
Yeah,
out.
close that too.
On the screen that I'm.
Yeah, right there.
Yep, close
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And then
Single page view.
single page.
You guys are testing my word skills here. Let me just zoom in. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Hang on.
Yep.
How's that?
A little bit better. You can go a little more.
Okay. Sorry.
There you go.
How's that?
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, that's very odd because now mine is like gigantic. So I'm not sure why you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Can everybody see okay? Or do you want me to make it bigger?
I think we're good to go then.
Okay. All right. So this is a document, essentially, it looks like a legal document because it is. So this gives us the background information and the general facts regarding the Lake District. Section 2 goes through details of the public hearing and when it was held. And it was held pursuant to WSStat Section 3326 sub 2. Then we have details of the work that this committee is doing. You had the special meeting on November 27th, and then we've had the subsequent meetings. Then we set forth a specific question that is going to be presented to the county board, which is whether to create the Lake District. And then the specific statutory question it has 4 components. Number 1, whether the petition is signed by the requisite number of owners as provided in section 33.25 sub 2 of the statutes. I'm sorry, 33.25. The next question is whether the proposed district is necessary. Number 3, whether the public health, comfort, convenience, necessity, or public welfare will be promoted by the establishment of the district. And number 4, whether the property to be included will be benefited by the establishment of the proposed district. So again, these are the 4 questions that you're going to be answering. And in so doing, we're first going to make detailed findings of fact that establish the answers to those questions. So I am literally going to go through these and just read them for the committee. And then you can jump in if you have questions. And what we can do is at the end of the findings of fact, we'll get a yes, everybody agrees, no, you don't agree, and then we'll move to the conclusions of law. Okay, so first question is the facts contained in the background information above and the general facts in section 1, excuse me, or consideration of the petition and reports in section 2 above are true and accurate and should be part of the findings of fact. So again, the information in section 1 and in section 2 that we went through is accurate and is included in the findings. Number 2, the petition was filed with the county clerk on October 11th, 2024. Number 3, the report contained all of the following: the proposed name of the district, information establishing the necessity of the proposed district, information establishing the public health, comfort, convenience, necessity, or public welfare. It will be promoted by the establishment of the district. Next, the information establishing the lands to be included in the district will be benefited by the establishment of the district. The petition included the boundaries of the proposed district. The petition included verification by one of the petitioners. I'm going to just pause here. There were questions in some of the public comments as to whether the verification requirement was met. And my opinion is that under section 33.25 and 26, the legal requirements for verification were indeed met. Next, a plat or sketch indicating the approximate area of the boundaries. Area and boundaries of the district were included. So at this point, does anyone disagree with the items set forth in number 3?
No.
Okay. Number 4, the public hearing was properly noticed pursuant to Stat Sec 33.26 sub 2. Next, the public hearing was held within 30 days of submission of the petition. Again, the petition was submitted October 11th, and then the public hearing was held November 6th, right? Yep. So we're within 30 days. Next, the public hearing provided all interested persons an opportunity to offer objections, criticisms, or suggestions as to the necessity of the proposed district as outlined in the petition, and to the question of whether a person's property will be benefited by the establishment of such district. Persons wishing to object to the organization of the district were indeed provided an opportunity to file objections to the formation of the district with the county clerk prior to the hearing. So what this element gets to is you finding that the public hearing did provide all persons with an opportunity to speak and an opportunity to participate. Anybody disagree with that?
No.
Okay. Next, the county clerk provided notice to the Wisconsin DNR of the date of the public hearing. Next, the committee, now this we're kind of looking into the future because this is going to be ultimately for the adoption of or action by the county board. So now the question is, the committee presented the report to the county board within 3 months. If you take action on it today, this element will be met. The petition contains a sufficient number or a sufficient summary of the comments made at the public hearing, including but not limited to the number of people speaking in favor of the petition, the number of people speaking not in favor of the petition, the documentation submitted at the public hearing, information submitted to the county clerk outside of the public hearing with comments pertaining to the proposed district and a link to the recording of the public hearing. And in my review of the report, all of these things were indeed contained, and specifically with respect to follow-up correspondence that occurred after the public hearing. It's my understanding that all of you have received that correspondence. So these elements should have been met. Does anybody disagree with these statements?
Rebecca?
Yes.
So you're saying that all of the emails that we've received over the course of time will be included in this report as well?
Well, they're included as part of the record. Whether and Andy or Liz may be able to speak to that, whether the emails were all forwarded to the committee members. And certainly the emails can be included as part of the report.
Yeah, any emails that you already did, like some of them were sent to you directly, any that were not, if they were sent to the clerk, they were forwarded to the committee or myself.
And they will be.
They're part of the record, because they are a public record when received. But to Rebecca's comment, they're not part of the report, that's just the record.
Thank you.
I could also add that they are now also posted on the website, and a lot of people don't know where that is. If you go to government, it's under the Zoning and Conservation Department, Conservation Lake District, and the full record of everything in the proceedings is there, and all of the correspondence up until yesterday at 5 p.m. is also uploaded. So everyone's public comments, emails, that it should all pretty much be represented there. The emails received especially, those are there as part of the record, but they're not in this December report if they were received after.
Okay. Next, item number 10, the information provided at the November 27th committee meeting and to the county board also establishes the following. And again, if you do not agree with these statements, let's talk about those at the end. Number one, the total number of signed petitions of landowners in favor of creation of the district that were submitted with the petition. So what you're saying is that you agree that the total number of signed petitions in favor of the creation were included with the petition. Next, the total number of properties within the district was established at the committee meeting. The number of properties required to meet the 51% requirement set forth in 33.25 sub 1 sub A was indeed met. That the petition states that the proposed name of the district was included, and that name is Callahan/Mud Lake District. You're finding that the petition contains a statement of necessity, which I believe it does. The petition contains a public benefit statement explaining how establishment of the district will promote public health, comfort, convenience, necessity, or public welfare. The petition contained a verification of the signatures and was signed by one of the petitioners, which I believe it was, and it was signed by Lynn Amundsen. Next, the petition contained a plat or sketch indicating the approximate area and the boundaries of the district. And then finally, that no landowner who is considered to have signed the petition withdrew from the petition at least 10 days before the public hearing, pursuant to 33.25 sub 5. So again, what you're finding here is that all of this information was provided within the context of that November 27th meeting, and that the information to be sent to the county board establishes all of these facts. Does anybody disagree with those that I read? Okay. And last finding of fact, that the County Board of Supervisors will be issuing its order herein within 6 months of the date of the public hearing. This is another item that is kind of looking into the future because we assume that the county board is going to take action within that 6 months, but we don't know for sure because it hasn't happened yet. So does anybody have questions on these findings? Anybody disagree with this information? And again, what I read as the findings of fact mirrors what is included in the report. So if you are in agreement with the facts in the report, you are in agreement with the findings set forth in the findings of fact. Any disagreements, questions?
Do we need to make a motion then to accept the facts and findings?
Nope, we can do that at the end. I just want to make sure there's no questions. Okay, so now we're on the conclusions of law. So again, from a purely legal standpoint, we have gone through all of the facts that are necessary to make your recommendation. Now that we've had those facts established, you're going to be making conclusions of law. And so again, I will read these, and they may seem duplicative, and I appreciate your patience, but this is really a very thorough way to make sure that the committee's recommendation complies with the statutes. Okay, so first conclusion of law, again, based on the findings of fact that we just went through, that the petition meets the legal requirements set forth in Wisconsin Statute 33.25, including that the petition was signed by the requisite number of owners set forth in WSStat 33.25 sub 1. Anybody disagree with that the petition had the requisite number of signatories? Okay. Number 2, that the public hearing complied with all of the legal requirements set forth in WSStat section 33.26. Anybody disagree? Okay. Number 3, this is a long one, but again, it memorializes what those statutory requirements are. That the district is necessary to manage issues that challenge the health and preservation of Callahan Lake and Mud Lake, and to identify problems and to take necessary remedial action to deal with the problems that affect the sustainability of the watershed, including activities which include protection of the fishery, maintenance of the appropriate lake levels, and preservation of the existing lake size and ecosystem, control of aquatic weeds and invasive species, reduction of sediment, and promotion of the continued harmonious use and protection of the watershed. Again, lengthy, lots of information there. But again, this mirrors what the statutory requirements are. And so by making a conclusion of law on this point, you are checking that box for what you need to find in the statute. Anybody disagree with those items? Okay. Next, establishment of the district will promote the public health, comfort, convenience, necessity, and public welfare. Anybody disagree? Okay. The lands that are finally included in the district will be benefited by the establishment of the district. Now, what this point is getting at is in your recommendation, the lands included in your recommendation will be benefited by the establishment of the district. Because we had the prior action to remove that one parcel, the recommendation is to have the boundaries as detailed in your information, again, excluding that parcel you've already acted on. Any questions on that point or disagreements? Okay. Next, the creation of the district will meet the purposes of undertaking a program of lake protection and rehabilitation of a lake or parts thereof within the district. Anybody disagree with that? Okay. And then finally, pursuant to WSStat 33.27 sub 1, upon creation of the district, the county board is going to appoint an initial district board of commissioners, and that's the board that I had mentioned earlier, which will consist of 3 owners of the property within the district, at least one of whom is a resident of the district, and 1 member of this committee, to serve as commissioners until the first annual meeting of the district. So under the statutes, if the county board approves creation of the district, the county board must also establish the Lake District Board of Commissioners. So that's what number 7 is getting at. And so there's no specific findings of fact that that we've talked about to establish this conclusion of law specifically. However, all of the information that we've talked about supports this conclusion of law to be made. Any questions on those? Okay, so now we're at the decision. And so you've got your findings of fact. We've got our conclusions of law. And so based on both of those, the decision is to be made and then recommended to the county board. And this is, I'll read this quickly, and then I would recommend that a motion be made as to the points of the decision. That's probably the most efficient way to do this. Okay, so you're making a recommendation on this findings of fact, conclusion, and law and decision to the county board. So what you would be recommending is that the County Board of Supervisors adopts the findings of fact and conclusions of law and hereby orders, decides the following. Number 1, pursuant to WSStat section 33.24 sub 2 and WSStat 33.26 sub 3, a public inland lake protection and rehabilitation district is hereby established as set forth in the petition, and the Lake District shall be named Callahan/Mud Lake District. Number 2, the Callahan/Mud Lake District shall include the lands legally described in the petition, with the exception of that property that was excluded by order of your motion. So this is, number 2 is an item that, as we go through this, that will be modified. And this is a draft document, and that's what, the lawyers get to do. We sometimes sit in meetings and modify the draft as we go. And so number 2 will be modified to reflect your decision, to exclude that one parcel. Number 3, the Callahan Lake Mud District shall be a body corporate and shall have all powers as authorized in Chapter 33, as that chapter may be amended. And number 4, in accordance with the terms set forth in WSStat 33.27 sub 1 and WSStat 33.28 sub 2, the Callahan Mud Lake District Initial Board of Commissioners shall be the following. Now, these names are not filled in because those my understanding is those potential board commissioners haven't been identified yet. When this gets to the county board is going to have to include these members because it's the county board that makes that initial appointment. So those need to be filled in. So any questions on what it is the committee is being asked to decide in its recommendation to the county board? Okay. If there's no questions, and if all of you agree with, again, with the findings of fact, the conclusions of law, and the decision, as we've talked about not only today, but in prior meetings, and you feel that these elements are supported by the record, I would suggest that a motion be made to adopt the decision as set forth, as I just read, under decision, points 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that motion would be for recommendation to the county board that the Lake District be created and that the county board adopt these findings of fact and conclusions of law and decision to indeed create the Lake District.
Here to make a motion, anyone?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the points of decision with modification to number 2, points of decision 1 through 4, the findings of fact and the conclusions of law, and move it forward to the county board.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
For any discussion, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, respectfully, I would suggest to make sure that there's no other discussion needed, if there's no other committee members that have questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions about what we're voting on here? Okay. All right, again, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you. Okay, on to item 16, board appointed committee updates. Anything here? Future agenda items. Correspondence, reports, and from conferences and meetings. Adjournment. Thank you all very much.
Take care, everyone. Stay warm.